Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin. This is episode number 156 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we continue to creep closer and closer towards the start of the postseason. Starting things off in the weekly rundown, the latest division-by-division breakdown focuses on playoff positioning and the battle to lock up the highest seed possible down the stretch. Further along, inside the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge, the Team HNIB hot streak has closed the gap significantly on Team OG. Finally, and wrapping it all up with our What to Watch For segment, we go over some games to keep an eye on, including a pair taking place the day this podcast is released. This week's episode is brought to you by Hockey Tech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. So with that, let's bring in the same E-Crew as last week, just three of us again, Anthony and Jeff. Last week, guys, I took us off the rails, as we do almost every week on the podcast. And we started talking about Scantrons, you remember, right?
Yes.
We're talking
Catron.
Yes, and how like there's so many coaches in our league that call him Cantron, and it's just like there's no end there, right? And I think it's always funny. I'm not sure how you guys feel, but like when we finish recording and the post goes up and whatnot, like, do you ever have to say to yourself, does anyone actually hear what we're talking about? Who's actually like listening? Do you ever ask that question to yourself? You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes, but I think we all get the same text too. We know the weekly listeners because they usually text us around a half hour or so after it's posted. They're already chomping at the bit, clicking, which we love. Thank you so much. That's why we do this. That's why we love it, and we love all of our dedicated listeners. So, yeah. But then there are some, Neil. You're right that you just go on and say, "What'd you listen to? The 12-minute mark," and then shut it off, or did we bore you? Were you not entertained?
Well, in the category of dedicated listeners is Seth Gustin, the head coach of the Lumberjacks. And like, there's no 12-minute mark. Like, he's listening to the whole thing, right? And he heard the Scantron segment. He loved the Scantron segment, and he made sure to let me know that when he had to fill out Scantrons in the past, he would just make patterns. He wouldn't go for anything else. He would just make patterns on his Scantron because he thought that would be the correct answer.
Wait, Seth Gustin was in the Scantron age? How old is Seth?
Probably around my age, I think.
Old.
He's late 20s?
Yeah.
Seth Gustin is a 93 birth year.
Wow.
Yeah, because
he's 4 years younger, so he's 29.
I know the 87s coach for the EHLP, Conor McNeil, he's only a month older than me. And I remember that the three of us were in the same age range.
Oh, wow, Conor. Okay, all right.
June 20th, guys. You want to go surprise Seth for his birthday, his 30th birthday out in Arizona?
Let's do it.
But I loved his text. I dreaded the Scantron. I would just make different patterns on mine. Like, that's hysterical.
Right.
So he heard that segment. He enjoyed that segment, which of course was not about the hockey. Let's get to the hockey now in the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
Did you guys hear the huge breath of relief that I took? This is Wednesday, yesterday.
Regular season champs, officially proud.
Yes.
Jinx, bye-bye.
Yes.
Erase it.
I mean, the trophy's right here. Like, it said New Hampshire Avalanche for a long time. And I was getting a little bit nervous. I have to be totally honest.
I was talking about you were being talked about in a couple different rings this week,
wow.
Neil, about your superstition, about your non-superstitious self and putting them on there a little early. Maybe a coach that first name sounds like On, last name sounds like Alsh.
Oh,
You want to
okay,
do that?
okay, 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 okay.
They
I
even
got it.
share a building with the New
Yes,
Hampshire Avalanche.
yes.
We were chatting a little bit this week, and he was like, "Ooh, the Raven putting the Avalanche on maybe a little prematurely, Jefferson. I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, Walsh. I'm a baseball player my whole life. I believe in superstitions. So, but hey, wipe those hands, Neil. It's over. They're officially champs. The New Hampshire Avalanche
Well,
once again, regular
I,
season champions. Sorry,
yes, I
we're getting ahead of
can breathe
ourselves.
a fresh air relief, right? But now the challenge is on them
Yeah,
because we talked about this on numerous episodes that the regular season champion has never won the playoff championship,
it's
right?
like the President's Trophy in the NHL, right? It's the kind of similar curse that you win it all in the regular season. Usually, someone sneaks up, some David hits off Goliath in the playoffs, but
So,
will that happen?
as we always record this Wednesday, drop it Thursday. Right after we drop this podcast, we're going to go present the trophy, Joe and I. Would
Excellent.
you guys, if you were the Avalanche, touch the trophy?
Hmm. Well, is Chris a guy
Anthony's,
that believes in superstition? I actually I
it's
know
a good
Chris well,
question.
but I don't know if he's a big
Anthony,
superstition
would you
guy.
touch the trophy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not the most superstitious person. Plus, we've seen at the
I wouldn't.
NHL level where teams who have touched the Clarence Campbell Trophy or the Prince of Wales Trophy, they go on to win the Stanley Cup anyway. I'm pretty sure the Penguins have done it a couple times. The Blackhawks, I think. So,
But that's not the
I'm
President's Trophy, though, too.
yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah,
this
that's when
is,
you win the Eastern Conference or Western Conference, so you're like that much closer to
I mean,
being crowned
I
champions.
don't think touching the trophy versus not touching the trophy is going to determine the mentality of pedal to the metal for the postseason, or okay, we can just lollygag around and do nothing in the postseason. I don't think that's how it works, Neil.
I mean,
I love that word, lollygag. Good word
you
choice, Anthony.
you interviewed Kyle Dan, Anthony. I mean, it's pretty well known that last year the Avalanche backed their way in, but kind of turned it on to get to Providence, and then lost both games in Providence. The year before that, they backed their way in, lost to the Seacoast Spartans. In the eyes of many, were saved, I guess you could say, by the at-large that year. So you talked to Kyle. I mean, is the pressure on New Hampshire? I know they've had such great history and they've been in every Frozen Finals, but is the pressure even that much higher on them now to break this curse?
That's a good question. When I spoke with Kyle, he just seemed very cool about it, and I had asked him because early in the interview he said having the best players or having the best team doesn't always equate to playoff success.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'd asked him, well, the Avalanche are doing so well this year. What do you have to do this year to take that next step? And he was a little more specific where he said, I think holding on to leads is something that we need to do better. He said playing well when we're up by a few goals, not taking our foot off the gas. But I think another thing too that he said was just staying close together as a locker room, staying close as a team, having a more tight-knit group, guys that buy in together, that play together. And when I was asking him about it, he seems pretty confident that that is the case now for the Avalanche this season.
And maybe it wasn't in seasons past, Anthony. I don't know if he
No,
alluded to that. I don't want
no,
to dig
no.
or pry, but
I wouldn't say that. I don't think that was the takeaway. I think it's
okay,
just being even more tight
closer.
knit than the season before.
Got you.
Not saying that they weren't tight knit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but there was definitely something missing last year. I mean, we talked about it. There's something they always say, postseason comes on. What's the old fashioned saying? You flip a switch, but I don't know. The circuit
The
breaker
other
just kind of
direction last year,
right,
it felt like.
right. Something like it's last year. It seemed like the circuit breaker just had a malfunction and needed an electrician to rewire it. It just kind of something just wasn't connected properly. But I mean, yeah, this year. I mean, just look at their last month though, Neil and Anthony. It's kind of been a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat the Spartans twice, but then snuck out a win versus the Warriors by a goal. Then you lose 7-5 to the Wolves. Then you lose to the Express. Then you beat the Wizards 5-2. Then you get pounded by the Railers 6-1. Then you pound the Wolves. So a lot of high scoring games that I
Sure.
think all three of us know that when come playoff time, you usually don't see 7-3, 7-5, 6-1. So, what Kyle echoed to you, Anthony, about you guys they have to stay locked in. They have to stay tight. They have to stay focused is definitely something that they need to. They're not perfect, as good as their record is, but they look pretty darn well ready to storm into the playoffs, I would say, with their depth in all areas. But as we've said, the North's the toughest division there is out there right now. Or is it? I mean, we'll talk about the other ones too, but
that's a good question, because we had said on numerous occasions that we thought that this division wouldn't be decided in terms of the seeding until the last weekend, right? It's basically done. The Avs are 1. The Spartans are locked in at 2 because the Wolves can't catch them. The Lumberjacks could still technically catch the Wolves. They'd have to win all their games out. The final 3 games of the season for the Lumberjacks are Express, Rangers. What?
And I think the Spartans are now a team to watch out for. Look at they're hitting their stride at the right time.
Well, and that's what's interesting about the Spartans, Jeff, is on March 4th. So we'll have one more podcast before that. They play the Wolves, right? So is that going to be a preview of their playoff series? Like, how do you go into that game knowing that you may already be locked into facing each other in the playoffs the following week?
Right. Do you start resting guys? Do you
go through the motions a little bit?
Right. Ask Brett Schreider. He's the man at the at the helm, at the head of the wheel. And I mean, we all know Brett pretty well. I think he's one of those old-fashioned coaches. I don't think he believes in superstition to keep that theme rolling.
No.
I think he's one of those guys just gonna say, no, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna, play our best brand of hockey, and we're gonna punch him in the mouth, we're gonna go win a hockey game, and Timmy Kuhns too. I think Timmy's another one that, Boston College guy, was under Jerry York, played for him for years, learned from one of the best, if not the best, college coaches ever. I think he's another one too. That kind of matchup. That's a really interesting matchup. Wolves Spartans. I don't think they'll really rest anybody, but I mean, you got to be careful, right? You don't want to get someone hurt in a game like that, but you want to get guys some work, but maybe not too much work. Maybe you roll your third and fourth lines and your third pairing D-men a little more, just to get guys' feet moving and get kind of some more looks, possibly. Maybe you don't roll the first and second lines as much, but I don't know. We'll leave it to the guys that get paid the big bucks to coach, not us.
Jeff, I just want to say that's the second week in a row you've done a Brett Schreider impression, and it's just as good as the last one.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. I love Brett.
So the Wolves have 2 games left. They also face the Rangers like Vermont does, but they also, as I just mentioned, face Seacoast. So it looks like they're in their order: Avalanche, Spartans, Wolves, Lumberjacks. There is still a possibility that the Lumberjacks and Wolves flip, but it would require the Wolves losing against both the Spartans and the Rangers, and the Lumberjacks sweeping the rest of their games, which is Express Rangers, which is tough because shifting to the East now, the Express and the Rangers are still playing for something, right? Mm-hmm. I know Rich is listening, and I know that we were texting this past week, and I said, the number 1 seed is almost done or practically done. And he didn't like that, right? I get it, right? It's not locked in yet. It's not locked in yet because the Rangers still have a max of 10 points left. I get all that, right? But there is still a 5-point lead for the Express.
Yeah.
5 points is a lot to make up at this point in the season.
Especially when the Express are playing the brand of hockey that they're playing right now. I mean, speaking of teams that are clicking at the right time, Jack Boschert, goalie of the week last week, couple of shutouts for him. He's already committed. He's playing next year. He's hungry. Talking to Tyler Rago, their play-by-play man, one of our good friends. I was talking to him the other day about how I still can't forget Jack Boschert sitting there at the end of the Frozen Finals watching Adam Hooley and the New Jersey 87 celebrate. He was the last guy sitting there in the corner on his knee and just watched all the celebrations, kind of took it all in. And I think that hurt him, but also motivated him at the same time. And I think now that it's getting into crunch time at that time of the season, I think he's using that, and he looks like a machine. He's locked in. And if the Express can continue to score 3 goals a game, that's, I think, all they truly need with the Jack Boschert that's given up less than 2 goals a game. That's the sweet spot. You don't have to score 4 or 5. Get to 3 each game, and I think that's enough for Jack.
For sure. So we know that those two teams will be the one in the two, Express and Rangers. It could be either order. Rich, it could be Rangers Express or Express Rangers, right?
Well, you'll see.
There's still a 5-point lead, right? The Seahawks are hoping for 3, but can fall to 4. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but did you see how Monday's game ended for the Seahawks?
Was that the 3-2 Railers one?
Yes. 3-2 Railers win in overtime.
Goalie pulled by Bill Zanaboni, right?
In overtime. I've never seen an empty net overtime winner.
Didn't Chris just start this trend last week or a couple weeks ago? This was talked about
he said he wanted to do it. He said he wanted to do it against the 87s, but did not.
And then he did it against the Seahawks. When the Avalanche went down there and won.
That's what I thought.
They gained possession and they pulled the goalie. The play initially was actually blown dead because the Avalanche player who was coming on for the goalie had jumped prior to the goalie reaching the red line, which is an illegal substitution. They put the faceoff at center ice, right? So then when they gained possession again, he pulled the goalie one more time. They set up a power play basically, and they scored and they won. For this Railers-Seahawks game, they got into the final minute, and the Seahawks had possession, pulled the goalie. And
I like that, Bill.
Jim McCabe was like, wow, this is – I don't think Jim really knew what to say, right? But obviously,
I don't know.
It's a bold script. What's the dodgeball?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off. Yep.
So
bold indeed.
So it was funny because I didn't see it live, but I'm starting to put together the top plays for this week. And to Trevor's credit, I texted Trevor and I said, "Did you get Jack Wyman's overtime winner?" Of course I did. Was it good? If you like empty net goals, I'm like, what? Empty net goals? Wasn't it overtime? Right. He goes, yeah, go watch overtime. I went back and I watched all of overtime. Like, I get what Bill was going for, right? I mean, could you have gotten the extra point in the shootout? He could have, but you roll the dice and try and execute a power play essentially in overtime and get the extra point that way. But it opens that window back up for the Wizards, who had lost 6 straight. Let's not forget, but have now won 2 straight. And the day that we dropped this podcast, I don't know if there's any bigger game than Wizards at Seahawks.
Yeah,
I mean that may determine who's 3 and who's 4.
Huge.
If the Wizards win that game, they're going to be the 3 seed, right? Which of course means you avoid the play-in game. We will address it. Valley is locked into the play-in game. Just so everyone knows. There's still a chance that they could host it technically if the Wizards lose out and Valley wins out. But Valley is locked in for that play-in game. And I'm sure it's a much easier trip from Haverhill to Bedford than Haverhill to the Cape.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
But I mean, Ryan McGrath does love the Cape. His wife has some family down there. So he's always a big fan of Tony Canarina. So not that he would be against there. But yeah, I mean, the Warriors losing 3 straight. Give them credit for storm back up the standings. Just they're stuck in that spot. And the Wizards, man, they just keep going. There's another team that's just back and forth.
Ask the question, Jeff. Ask the question.
Who are the East Coast Wizards?
We have no idea, and they have no idea.
They are Matt Gover. Well, Matt Gover put a hurting on us in fantasy. Thanks, Goves.
Yeah, you'll get to that. We'll get to that later for sure. But it's going to be interesting to see, because you can basically make the case that Express and Rangers will be 1 and 2, order to be determined. Valley probably finishes 5, but we're still looking to figure out who's 3 and who's 4. But what to watch for, we'll all pick a different game because we're all going to watch that Seahawks versus Wizards game for sure. I'm going to go Central next. And just because we continue to jockey in this division, 2 through 5. And you know, every day we're doing the math out now to figure out max points, right? And when the max points for the quote-unquote last place team still can move that team all the way up into second place, maybe they are the North Division in terms of it's going to come down to the last weekend for me to figure out who's what seed. That 2-game series between the Apple Corps and Rhode Island on March 5th and or 4th and 5th, that's huge.
In Rhode Island too, at the home barn of our newcomers, HC Rhode Island. So Maybe they'll have just enough home cooking to pull out the series. Maybe they take a split. But yeah, 1 point behind the Chiefs, HC Rhode Island. Then they're out 2 games against, they have the Rough Riders and the Rangers. So, I mean, that Rangers game, we just talked about them. They're hungry to try and chase the Express. That's not going to be any easy task. And the Rough Riders, another team that people look down on in the standings, but they played pretty much anybody and everybody tight. So that's no given either.
They beat the 87s not too long ago. And you also have the two Connecticut teams facing off against each other, the Chiefs and the Rough Riders.
Yep. Yeah, kind of a mixed bag there in the Central. Not sure where that's going to
Neil, would you say similar to the South where you got that sort of two-tiered race where you have the Chiefs and HC Rhode Island fighting for the 2 and 3 spot, and then you have the Rough Riders and Apple Corps probably fighting for home ice advantage for that playing game?
I think it's getting closer to that, right? Like, I know I said that the Apple Corps technically could still jump all the way up to 2, but you need all the dominoes to fall in a certain direction for that to happen.
They have a game coming up against Team Maryland, so I think that would be pretty hard. Not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but
your point is
not easy.
Your point is that all the teams that you're facing are still playing for something also, right? Like Team Maryland, you want to talk about who are the East Coast Wizards, Jeff. It's like, this is who Team Maryland is this week, and here's who we're going to be next week, and then we're going to go back to who we were 2 weeks ago then. Yep. And they've won 2 straight, and they've kind of put themselves a little bit in the driver's seat to avoid that play-in game in that division. I don't want to say Philly Hockey Club has waved the play-in game white flag.
They only have 2 games left.
But yes, they have the fewest games left, and they trail both the Little Flyers and Maryland by a point. So It kind of feels like they are going to be in that play-in game. The 87s and Ducks won't be. That's for sure. They have 2 games left each, and they're against each other, and they're tied with 55 points.
And they're tied at games played. So South Division, how cool is that? I love that a South Division will be, Anthony, I don't know if you love that, but that the South Division will be settled. Well, I think that between Terry and Adam, I think that's the way they would want it. Yeah. Do you agree, Anthony, as far as to win that division, play against each other, let the best man win?
I guess just some insider knowledge, because I was calling that game where the 87s were playing Team Maryland. Maryland had a 5-1 win, hat trick for Morley Phillips. He was phenomenal that game. And talking to Adam Hooley, obviously you never want to lose a game, but I think for him, he was just, it's okay not having a winning streak going into the end of the regular season where maybe they get one last punch in the mouth, some sort of adversity before heading into that series against ProTech. And he knew the entire time that it was going to boil down between this 2-game set between the 87s and ProTech.
Yeah.
So I think for him, it's just get ready for Thursday, because and also just for the scenario for who's going to get the 1 versus 2 seed. If the 87s want to clinch the number 1 seed, they either have to win both games in any fashion, or they have to win 1 game in regulation and then get at least a point in the next game.
Yep.
If anything else happens, ProTech gets the number 1 seed, because that would also mean that they win the season series with the head-to-head, which is the first tiebreaker. I think ProTech would also finish with more wins. So I think ProTech has a slight advantage, but
yes,
if the 87s can win in any fashion. Also, if the 87s win the first game in overtime or a shootout, then we might see a goalie pull with I was going to say with the game tied or maybe in overtime. I don't know. Even I'm trying to think of all the scenarios, but we'll see.
It sounds like Neil's round robin time with the get the pencils out, mark 2, -3, +4, +6.
and I've talked to Terry and Adam a few times about this. Obviously, the slight advantage does point in favor of the Ducks, who own a 6-3 head-to-head point advantage right now, and then one more win than them. So essentially, if you're the Ducks, you win a game in regulation, you win one of the games in regulation, it's probably over, right?
Yeah. They've won 3 out of the 4 matches.
It would be over. It would be over if they win in regulation.
And the rest of the division's like, who cares? You're in a best-of-3 series. We're fighting to be in the play-in or out of the play-in game, right? But from the Ducks' perspective, I'm speaking for Terry. I think this is how he would feel. right? The 87s win the South every year. They have since 2018-19 every season.
Been their division.
They've won the division.
Yep.
You want to claim there's a changing of the guard, you got to go out and beat them, right?
Yeah.
So, they play the day that we're dropping this podcast. I guess you could say what to watch for is February 23rd. Seahawks versus Wizards, Ducks versus 87s, all on the same day.
There you go, all done.
Right?
Cue the outro. Here we go. See you guys next week.
And then they play again on Tuesday, the 28th, just so everyone knows. Right. Those are the back-to-back games, both at the Ducks.
Another big storyline for Thursday too, Neil. I was texting you late last night. I was texting Terry late last night. He's starting a new goalie that I have seen on Thursday named Yeli Levins. He's from Belarus. He's from Europe. This kid was on a team that was not very good. We'll leave them unnamed. But he would make 50 to 60 saves a game. You remember Thomas Walker? We used to always say Thomas Walker was our, yes. Go get an IV, check yourself into the hospital. Yeli Levins is Thomas Walker. Go look at his box score and look at the amount of pucks that this kid's seen. Terry just acquired him to mix in with Kirschenbaum. And
wait, whoa! Didn't we just pass the ad drop deadline? What the hell, Neil?
He added them on the
deadline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before midnight, it was legal. It was legal.
Yes. Just making sure.
He just hasn't played yet. He played Casper and Kirschenbaum recently, but Kirschenbaum's been great since Terry got him. He's 8-2. I think he's had a few starts that haven't gone his way recently. He's given up 4+ goals in 3 different starts. I think Terry's looking for a little bit more consistency out of the net. So it could be Levins. That kid, we'll look out for him. He is, well, and Terry said last night, we'll see. Because I said, he was asking me, you've seen him a good amount. How good do you think he is? I think he's phenomenal. And I know a lot of other coaches think that too. So we'll see. Because he'll be going up against the 87s when this podcast drops on Thursday. So
right when their offense is picking up too. I mean, save for the Maryland game, they had 3 straight games of scoring 6 or more goals.
Yeah.
So if the Maryland game was just a blip on the radar, then this new goalie might have quite a bit of a workload coming his way.
Yeah. He's used to it. He's good. If he sees like 25, 30 pucks, it's like a light day for him. So we'll see. That should be interesting.
We'll shift to the EHLP. One of our winning streaks at the top of the division is over, guys. Adirondacks' winning streak was snapped this past week. They still got a point in the game that they lost to Vermont, so they still have a 13-game point streak going, and they still have the division lead plus a game in hand over Vermont.
And this whole Premier League is streaking right now, Neil. You see all the other streaks too? Rangers, 87s.
No, it's nuts.
A little like it's crazy.
And it's funny because you look at the New England division first. We know the Chiefs are locked in at 5, right? You really don't know about the other 4 seeds yet, right? But then you look at the Boston division. All 5 seeds are done.
Yep.
Rangers are 1, Railers are 2, Warriors are 3, Seahawks are 4, Express are 5. Seahawks Express
have about 5-6 games left in their season too, so that's interesting.
Well, only go to 42 at the EHLP.
Oh, 42, that's right.
So there's 3 left for all of them except for 1 for the Seahawks, right? Express and Seahawks, March 8th. There's your first scheduled play-in game so far. March 8th at 7:30 p.m. I was like, I already have a game done. Thanks, guys. That was easy.
Love that.
So, did the 87s technically clinch the Mid-Atlantic, Anthony?
I'm not sure. I think they still need to get 2 more points.
Or at least 1 point, because the tiebreaker could still go towards the Huntsman.
Huntsman still have 3 games left.
I hadn't put the Y symbol there yet, Anthony, so I was confusing myself for a moment there. It would have to be a perfect ending to the season for the Huntsman to win all 3 and the 87s.
Didn't the 87s win the season series or no? Because I know
still,
they won the last 2.
I think they still have a game left, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, do you want to do math? Do you want to do math on the podcast?
Let's do it.
I'll pass.
No,
you guys. Well, you guys keep talking for a second, and I'll try and do
it. Credit for the 87s, though. I mean, they still got 6 games left, and to pretty much almost be clinched. Job well done by Connor McNeilis and the 87's premiere, especially bouncing back from the rough year like they had last year, right? I mean, you win the championship the year before that, and then you come back last year is kind of a not great year, and then this year has been quite the opposite, Anthony. That premier team is reloaded, and they've been phenomenal all season.
Well, last season they had a lot of really, really young players. That
Yeah,
was the
raw.
youngest EHLP team they've ever had.
Yep.
But this year you have some veteran players like Shea Keating. Ivan Borisov has been with the team, I think, since they were in Middletown.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's been there forever. I feel like
He's been around for a while.
Mr.
But then
87.
then you have
Right.
some newer players like Nick Schultz, Tyler Chafe, these two forwards from Florida. They have great chemistry together, and they just play a solid all-around game. You have Jack Foote, who is a defenseman in the EHL All-Star game, Tyler Branish, TJ's brother. So just I mean, just a lot of great players. But yeah, I think Connell has done a great job filling in his coach. But
So the Huntsmen have 3 games left, 2 of which are against the 87s, right?
Yeah.
And the third
that
one
season series is tied at 3, by the way, I think. If I just counted
there's
correctly.
some overtime points in there too. So the Huntsmen
right.
currently have the head-to-head points advantage 7-6. So they'd have to win all 3 of their remaining games, including the 87s twice in regulation, right? And the 87s would have to get a max of 1 point in their final 6 games. So again, it's just kind of like Avalanche regular season championship deja vu for me, because it's almost so locked in that you could say it's the 87s, but there's like a 5% chance that it could be Huntsman still, right? So we could be done with this whole thing after this weekend as the 87s play the Huntsman and play the Little Flyers.
You'll check your phone. I think Zach Overholtzer just texted you.
He's actually tapped into us live on this, but
my best friend.
yes, and then I mean after them, the Renegades and Little Flyers are still battling it out for who's 3 and who's 4. So again, another one of those avoid the play-in game matchup in the final game of the regular season in the EHLP for all the teams. 4:00 on Sunday, March 5th, Renegades versus Little Flyers. So that may very likely determine who's going to host the play-in game against Union Thunder 2 or 3 days later. So it's so compelling how these races are unfolding across both divisions of play. Because you could make the case that you wanted to label each one or come up with a name for each one, all 7 of them. They're all different. They all have their different storyline to them.
For sure.
So I've been trying to avoid fantasy for as long as we can, Jeff. But
my heart actually stopped a little this morning because I knew you were refreshing stuff and you were doing the picks, and I was like, I refreshed it a couple times. I was like, no, I don't think Neil's updated it yet. And I'm like, okay, yep, yeah, it's all set. Okay, time to start worrying. I'm sweating. This sucks. Yeah. All right,
do you
let's get
Jeff. Where's your panic button? Do you have a panic button?
Hold on, let's see. Where is it?
We gotta find
can't
that
find
now.
it.
We gotta find that one now. So let's.
Where's yours? You got yours?
We gotta buy one off Amazon right now. All right, let's jump to fantasy.
It's time for the eCrew Fantasy Challenge.
The eCrew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSeal, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at bioseal.com.
You know what's the worst part of it, Jeff? Is one player for them got more points than our entire set of picks this past week.
Actually, if you look at it, I think 2 players each got more. Arendes and Gover.
Oh my God,
right?
2 of them. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So they could have just had one of those and they would have had more than we had. Yep.
That is also the 3rd consecutive week that Team HNIB has secured 50 or more points.
Oh,
Jeez.
God. It's
Joe Sindoni was taunting me over the weekend too, by the way. He's supposed to be on, isn't he like an honorary Team OG guy? He's texting me while he's doing Flyers Huntsman. Jeff, you and Neil are in trouble. Randy's just scored again. He's got an assist. I was like, Joe, stop texting me. I don't want to hear it.
Ryan Arandes,
9 points for him. Woo.
Not one, yes, 9 real
Total
life
points.
points.
Sorry, yeah, 5 goals, 4 assists. Yeah,
Fantasy points, it translates to
much more.
28.
Damn.
Because
Wish it was only 9.
Yeah, he had 5 goals, 4 assists, 2 power play points, a game winner, and a hat trick. And
he's already signed a contract to play for the EHL team next year, so
yeah.
he'll be hunting all of
Jeff,
our dreams next year.
what if we don't condone PIMS, but if we also had 15 PIMS over the weekend, so he could have really exploded this past weekend.
I said we throw him in for next year, babe. Let's go.
No.
Come on.
Matt Gover, 2 wins, 105 saves.
Sheesh.
He did give up 7 goals because there was a loss in there too, but he got them 22 points. I mean, oh my God, right there, Anthony.
The century mark for saves.
There's your 50 points just from those 2 guys. So
and then some.
Then you got some help from some other guys. Mr. Charles Lavoie from the 87s helped you out a little. Kieran Chung helped you a little. Only 1 goose egg, Nakagawa. But
yeah, I want to pause for a second to go back to Gover because he is a multi-year guy for us in our league. And he recently committed. Not sure if you guys saw
MCLA.
that. He's going to MCLA. Obviously every year
for 2 sports.
Yes, and every year
is he doing golf too? Oh, nice.
He is. Whenever there's one of these new programs that pops up, we all being the Division III feeder that we are. We always get a number of kids that go to that school, right? But
we have a ton going to MCLA.
Some of the kids that have committed to MCLA so far, I mean, Gover, you could say helps lead the class, right? Did you see who one of the other ones they just committed was?
Did I see Colin Ogborn?
Cade Herrera.
Oh,
yes,
Mr. Sniper from the Seahawks, Cade Herrera. Okay,
so their core. I mean, they're going to be young. Obviously, you bring in a full team of freshmen, you're a younger team, right? But if your core starts with a Matt Gover and a Cade Herrera, that's pretty
good.
damn good. So
Cade Herrera, Mr. EHL Streaks page.
Yes,
he's been on that thing pretty much since he came into the EHL.
Yeah. So I had to pause there for that for a second. But overall, Team HNIB got 63 points this past week.
Not well said.
No, God. For Team OG, we brought in 17.6. So
yay.
I guess I picked the wrong Adirondack goalie, Jeff, because it was Kean Hodgins who got the win and Charles Healy who got the loss in the split with Vermont.
And I didn't help you much by not helping you with those picks either. So we're gonna tag team this from here on out so we can secure this dub and ship.
So
we have to.
Should we? I guess we'll read off ours first because I picked first. Another recent commitment, Bobby Voss just committed to SUNY Canton. His production. When people talk about the jump from EHLP to EHL, for every point in the EHLP, some people think it's like a half a point in the EHL because it's just the level of play. His production's rolled right over. So
guy's been a lumberjack for what, 3 years, 4 years now?
So multiple years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We actually, Jeff, I'm not sure if you remember this, but we picked Robbie Rebroker before. And it didn't work out. So now we're going back to the well because he's been very hot lately, including a 2-goal game.
Come on, Rob.
Against the Wolves this past weekend. So
great head of hair on Robbie Rebroker.
Yes,
need that.
Great head of hair. If we got points for hair, it'd be great. Anthony mentioned Morley Phillips, who had a hat trick this past week against the 87. So hoping for more of that from Team Maryland. And then I went all names for the 2 defensemen because we got Birch Gorman and Rudolphs Jurgensens. It's the all names teams right there. I mean, when I know Birch Gorman scored in the past game for Pro Tech, obviously 2 huge games for them against the 87s. When I met Jurgensens, he is massive.
Large human.
I was looking up the whole time. I'm like, you're in the EHLP?
Oh wow.
Let me I gotta find
let's find his height and
weight right now. Because I was looking up and I was like, this kid could step on me and crush my face in. He's 6 foot.
Is he 6'7"?
He's 6'4", 230.
All right, yeah, that's not a small human by any means.
He
6'4", 230.
and he has
What
a
is he?
hat
16, 17 years old?
18.
18.
So
Okay,
he does have
still
a hat trick on his resume too this year.
we
So
need that.
we need another one of those. And then I went with Stefan Kulhanik in net. I'm not really sure how many starts he will get for the Railers in this second to last week, but a win makes him the all-time winningest goalie in league history because he
So
has
you know
50
Bertoni's going to play him
at
at
least
some point.
once, right? So
Yeah, he's got to.
I mean, we can
Well,
do a
that
whole
includes the postseason too, right? So
yes.
even if he does,
True.
even if he doesn't get one in the regular season, he's got the entire postseason to get at least one.
But
Good point. Yeah, good point.
You would think get that weight off your shoulder now.
So you can focus.
Not have to think about that at all during the playoffs, right? Because then in the playoffs you can just say, however many we win or I win, like that's just solidifying the record in my favor for the whoever in the future wants to try and break it.
And that way there too, I mean, not gonna speculate, but LaPierre's played well too, so then it kind of releases you from if Sean does want to go to LaPierre instead of Steph. They love Steph, they love Xavier. I'm just saying, they're both really good. They're both 1As.
They're both 0-2s, right? I mean, that's the best duo in the league. I'm sorry,
without
it
a doubt.
is. So
for sure.
But I mean, God, Jeff, we need this. We need this week. So those are our picks for this week. Anthony,
cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross your shoelaces, cross everything.
Yes. You went, I'm going to let you say your picks, but I love how you went like full all-star forward line, and then you continue with this double EHLP trend.
It's been working.
Yeah. Well, I figured that if a team has 3 or 4 games on the schedule, you might as well pick those players because you're more likely to get something out of them.
The volume, smart.
Yeah. So here are my picks for the fantasy this week for Team HNIB. We're going to go with the leading scorer of the EHL, William Prey. He's having a very nice season right now. He has 29 goals, 40 assists, good for 69 points in 42 games. He had a 5-point game back on the 3rd against the Avalanche. So he can score against just about anybody as he's riding this 6-game point streak. So welcome to Team HNIB yet again.
Wow, William, cool off.
Talk about the Wizards and how they have some big games coming up. Well, how about a player who's been producing big-time moments for them all season, George Kolovos. He recently had a point streak snapped, but he's still putting the puck in the net. Figured that he can get hot again in the final stretch of the season. We'll get him on Team HNIB. Rounding out the forwards, I'm going to go with a player who had come back from injury and hasn't really missed a beat. Alex Gamzatov for the New Jersey 87s. He's coming off a 2-goal game against the Philadelphia Little Flyers. Had an assist against Team Maryland, so he is on a nice 4-game point streak. Going to go back to him. I think he can have some big moments against the ProTech Junior Ducks. But then I'm going to pick one of his.
Back to Anthony.
We went to
they weren't sure they were
going
to get him back, right? But with Gamzatov, real quick, I mean, they weren't sure they were going to get him back this year.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. They thought that his injury was going to set him back for the rest of the season. Yeah. They got a much better prognosis than expected. So he's back skating again. And again, it doesn't look like he's missed a beat. He's been playing very well for the 87s. So then we're going to go with one of his opponents this upcoming week, Jacob Gates. He's one of the best offensive defensemen in the entire EHL. He has 35 points in 44 games, including 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points back on the 17th against Philadelphia Hockey Club. So Jake and Tyler convinced me to take a ProTech Junior Duck. I'll admit that this is sort of a personal thing where I try not to pick guys who are playing against the 87. So
I love it.
If Jacob Gates pops off, well, at least that'll be a consolation, I guess, that my fantasy team is doing well.
There's no I in team, but there is an I and not HNIB there yet.
That is true. Then my last 2 picks is what Neil was referring to. 2 players from the New Hampshire Avalanche because they have a couple of games. I think they have 3 games against the New England Wolves.
Yeah, it's a lot coming up. That's for sure.
Yep.
So the other defenseman from the EHLP will be Mike Magyar. He has 10 points in 11 games so far with the Avalanche from the blue line, 5 goals, 5 assists, In his last 2 games, he's recorded 2 points each. Avalanche haven't played since the 11th. They've got that nice little 2-week break, just like the 87s. Hopefully, he'll be back well rested and he'll be able to contribute for Team HNIB. And then we're going to go with Alex Girard, also from the Avalanche. Has a 14-6-2 record. He has a .919 save percentage, .273 goals against average. Figured he'll get at least 1 start if he can make a couple of saves, and maybe we'll get some points from him in between the pipes.
Jeff, I don't even need your calculator right now. The deficit has shrunk so much that I can even tell you that we're only up by 30.2.
I already did the math when I was driving back to my house earlier. I was like, yeah, this sucks.
At one point,
I hate it here.
We were at least over 150.
Yeah.
But hey, credit to
the boys.
Team. I'm trying to say Team YG, Team Young Guys.
Yeah.
They have fought back, and
did the turnaround start when we had the graphic with you and Jeff?
Ooh.
No. You guys I think kept running away with it even after that graphic, because that was early in the season.
Yeah. I actually didn't realize that there was another graphic that you guys meant to show me recently.
Oh?
Following my JBT shootout, you were supposed to ask me where my skinny jeans were.
Actually, Justin did show me that. I got to hang out with Justin a few weeks ago when I was on vacation in Florida. He did show me that.
Have you seen this picture, Anthony?
I have not.
Oh. Send that over, will you, Neil? It's a good one.
Is there a way to quickly find this? Because this was, of course, I wore jeans in the JBT shootout last year.
To get the loose fit, not the straight fit.
No, I didn't wear jeans this year because I was not gonna put myself in that position again. Right?
Yeah, you went with the what'd you go with? Sweats, golf shorts?
No, they're like the they're like, it's like a tracksuit type thing, right? Like it's
yeah.
A lot of the coaches wear them when they're on the ice for their practices and whatnot.
The swishy-ish pants.
I mean, this Photoshop that Justin did,
oh my god,
this is the tightest pair of jeans I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
So tight.
No, I didn't wear those. Clearly,
with the holes in the kneecaps. Are we gonna? No, we're not gonna tweet this out to the world.
We're not posting
like a South Park character.
As I say, I know we're an audio podcast, so people can't see this, but yeah.
You know what I just realized, and I hope Andrew Trimble is listening. He took this picture for me, right? He posted it, obviously not with the jeans. Yeah. He let me take my championship picture with the trophy backwards.
Oh,
do you see that?
I do. A man of symmetry. That's against your code, Neil.
The goalie is facing the wrong way. Oh my god. I am shook. I am shook.
Shook. As the kids say these days, shook.
I guess we'll move on.
See, he's catching on to the Team HNIB vernacular.
I guess.
Yep.
Skill issue.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right, let's go to what to watch for now.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to watch for is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2022-2023 season.
I will lead off with a game that I've already claimed will mean nothing in the standings because the seeds in the Boston division of the EHLP are already all done. But the Rangers host the Railers on Friday night, and we haven't talked about this enough. Drake Tomac has scored a goal in 17 straight games.
Ooh.
That's unheard of.
Kane Herrera was Mr. EHL Squeaks. Now Drake Tomac's like, no, sir, I will take that title.
17 straight games
with
a goal. He has scored a goal in every game his team has played dating back to December 10th.
Wow. So I would say he's a big reason why they're 14-0 in the last 14.
Yes. So in those 17 games, he has obviously 1 goal per game. He scored 24 total because he has a few multi-goal games in there too. He's put up 40 points. He's averaging over 2 points a game, almost 2.5 points per game in that stretch, right?
Oh, wow.
And Jeff mentions the winning streak, which they're at 14 straight right now, and they're closing in on a record for the all-time longest winning streak in the EHLP, which of course the Rangers own too. Okay, at 16 in the 17-18 season, but they can get to 15 on Friday night, and it's gonna be interesting because the Railers I mentioned, they aren't playing for anything in terms of their seed in their division. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you have to be thinking, if you're an EHLP team, what happens if we make it to the division finals and we lose in the division finals, right?
Yeah.
Because if the regular season champion goes all the way through, then that opens up that at-large possibility for the Railers. Right?
Yeah.
So which say the Rangers win the regular season championship and knock off the Railers on the way to Providence. If you're the Railers, these games are huge because it's key points against everybody else in the league, and wanted to make sure that you still can get there when all is said and done. So this is a big game on Friday night, and obviously I'm watching, of course, with the streaks, Drake Tomac with the goals and the winning streak, but as well as just the key points on the line. So who wants to go next?
I'm going to go Ducks 87s. Anthony, like I said, I'll take it away from you so you don't get looked at as a homer because you are not a homer. You are a league guy. Ducks have won 3 out of 4. We just talked about. They got a new goaltender starting in Yeli Levens. 87s have Alex Gamzatov back. They're starting to score more lately. New goaltender can be different as far as how the team plays in front of them. And obviously, the Ducks have been also scoring a lot lately. They just put up a 10 spot recently, a nice 10-0 win. They've been scoring with the vengeance. So, yeah, we said if the Ducks can win that in regulation, the South would be theirs and would be the first time that any of us have echoed that word that someone else is winning the South besides Adam Hooley in the 87s. Or will Adam in the 87s push that to the final meeting, which is on Tuesday, February 28th, to decide the South? That is my what to watch for, and I think it's a game that we're all going to be watching on Hockey TV for sure.
I would probably have to pick the doubleheader between the Express Hockey Club and the Vermont Lumberjacks. The Express right now leading in their division. You have the Lumberjacks, who are 4th and last place in the North, probably the best last place team out of anyone in the EHL and EHLP. And I think for the Express, it'll be a good test for them to close out the regular season. They're riding a 4-game winning streak. They're going to go up against, again, even though Vermont's last in the division, still a very good hockey team in their own right. And we'll see if the Express's offense can keep up what they're doing right now. They've been giving Boschert some goal support, even though Boschert is pitching a couple of shutouts the last couple of games. Plus, I guess looking at some more records all time. So I guess I'll just take a step back from any particular games. Jack Boschert is 5th in the EHL with 9 shutouts. He's behind Travis Pelkey of the Philadelphia Revolution with 11. That's for the 4th place spot. Louis Joseph Guernon has 60 goals in his career. Yeah. He's number 10 all time. So he's on that list now. He's only 2 behind Hunter Laszlo of the New Hampshire Junior Monarchs. He's 4 behind Oleg Potemkin of the Philadelphia Little Flyers. Beast. Aiden Hotchkiss is climbing up the leaderboard for all-time points. He's 5 points behind Bryce Whitman. Whitman playing for the Revolution and Little Flyers. He's 5th all-time. Hotchkiss is at 6th. And Hotchkiss right now is 4th all-time in assists with 114. He's only 2 behind Chris Peters, who is 3rd all-time.
Oh, from the Walpole Express from back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. Plenty,
wow.
I'm
plenty of records to be broken.
I'm trying to keep up as close as I can with that records page because there's so many guys chasing history, really, you could say, on that page. But that will do it for this week's episode. A lot of people have been asking about the commitment stories. I'm trying to keep up as best as I can. But
it's commitment year.
There are plenty that we still have to announce. So just know that Anthony Marchant, Gavin Crowley, Nick Fish, Patrick McKiernan, Bobby Voss, Andrew Woloshin, Patrick Demarinis, Dallas D'Amato, Chris Hipson. I could go on and on.
Chris Zapata.
Nolan McDonough. I'm going to announce all these soon. It's just
excellent.
I maybe I'll just take a day and just write 17 stories in a day. I don't know. Like if we just have that many kids committing right now that, we're trying to keep up. Ryan Moore, Matt Gover, the list goes on and on. They've all committed in this last, as Jeff says, commitment season, last 2 weeks stretch or so.
It is.
I haven't got a day, I think, in February yet, it feels like, without having at least one commitment sent to me, right? But that's what we do, right? That's why we're here. That's what the league is so proud of, what they do best, and put these kids into college. So what takes place on the ice in terms of the wins and losses, that's just a bonus. But we like talking about it. So we'll talk more about it next week.
See you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.